cycles were like, we talk about bull bear cycles in Bitcoin, it's 4 years. We've had two really prominent cycles. So everyone's looking back and going, well, we're going to end of this year. And we're going to have another pullback of 85% over a year. And then we'll have another, 4-year cycle. And I'm saying, I don't think that's going to happen. And I think that if given that's the case, well, if that's those bear cycles of bull bear cycles of 4 years have gone, then we're just going to have we'll go up and down. Whether you call them bull bear cycles, but they're not 4 years in cycles. This is like a price discovery as the thing ramps up, and like. I mean, I have these charts up every day, and seriously, we've got 12 and a half years of these charts. It's carving out an adoption S-curve. 3% of the world has Bitcoin, and it's growing at a rate of 100% per annum. So it'll be 6% in a year, 6% of the world population having exposure, and then 12%, and so forth. So, it sounds ridiculous, right? It sounds ridiculous that we won't have the US dollars in 10 years. But I remember doing this thing in 2016 and tracking the rate of growth. We had 6 or 7 years at that point. And I said, looks like in 9 years, half of the world will be using Bitcoin. And that's actually continued to be on track. So things change very quickly when we're talking about exponential change. So I think there's a fair shot that the new unit account may be Bitcoin. Sounds ridiculous when the only 3% of the world's using it, but remember, it's going to be 6% and 12% in 2 years, and then it's going to look a lot more obvious. And so, if the unit account changes, that's a lot of things change. So that's what I'm saying.
That's fascinating. I love that. So, and you think that could play out like in the next, 10 years then? 10 years and the US dollar it obviously will still exist in some way, but Bitcoin will take over. Do you think America would put it on its reserves or?
Yeah, I don't really know. I'm just tracking the rate of growth of this thing and the valuation. I don't know whether or not nation states are able to mitigate its rise. I kind of think that it doesn't really make sense for nation state currencies to exist as they have been in the past, being fiat, sovereign issued, demanding their citizens to hold it or spend with it. Not in a digital age, not when more and more of the population are digitally mobile, can work anywhere in the world, can travel anywhere in the world, and they want a borderless currency. So, anyone who's traveled a bit has noticed that, there's this new movement of mainly millennials and younger, digital nomading. They work online and they go to places in the world that have better, value for living. And I've observed that most of them are very early in crypto because that's exactly what they need, a store of value that is in the cloud that it's not in a bank, because banks don't work internationally. Anyone who's traveled notices that they're very pro crypto, and it actually works for a digital life. And as more and more people move into the digital realm, you see this with NFTs as well. More and more real world stuff is being coexisted and digitized. I'm looking at it now and looking at nation state currencies and going, it might not be obvious now, but wait 10 years and you're starting to realize that it's starting to look very, very archaic, and it looks like a copper, silver and gold coins being traded versus, something that is very native to, effectively what runs global commerce now, which is all digital. So I don't see it as a big leap. Maybe I live in the future a bit, but I'm looking at what we've got now and what we've got right now developing, and it's just the future's here. It's just taking time to spread, and it's spreading very quickly. Yeah, I'm just really interested to see who the next buyers are. So you've got we've had the first bunch of corporates that have bought in, and we haven't had a really big Fortune 20 company come in. So I'm looking for that. I'm also looking for the first large sort of sovereign wealth fund to buy in. We've already seen El Salvador get exposure with their so a nation state has bought in, but some of the big guys, with trillion dollars of wealth to invest, looking for that kind of stuff, and also interested to see what happens with the hedge fund world, whether or not they sell off to publish their results, their earnings. I don't know. So I'm really just going into the first quarter, who's buying, who's selling, and yeah. So that's what I'm thinking. This, as things go on, we go from the early buyers that are small to bigger buyers, and then you had the hedge funds, you had the very notable, the Bridgewaters of this world, BlackRock, they're starting to validate it. And so we're going bigger and bigger. I'm waiting for the big announcements from, sovereign wealth funds, and banks holding it as an asset backing. So that kind of thing of bringing more and more legitimacy into it. Just, every sort of quarter we see something new. We just had the ETFs. So that was something we were watching for the third or fourth quarter of this year, and it came through. Also spot ETFs as well, whether or not they'll be approved. So yeah, it's nice. It's just watching this tiny asset class get mature and become a full-blown macro asset with all of its sophistications. So we had a huge amount of coins move, and so what I'm saying is that in the $50,000 to $60,000 range it's $1 trillion of market cap for Bitcoin. So it's a $1 trillion asset class, and that's very much validated, cemented. I'm not saying it'll ever never go below, but it's very unlikely that it'll drop below this sort of $50,000-$60,000 range and be sustained, given the amount of price discovery we had. So it's formed a really good base for it to move further up and see what the price discovery is higher up. But if it ever comes back down, this is an area that we'll revisit, and it'll be pretty valid, well supported. So I don't really think Bitcoin will drop below the $1 trillion mark in the future, not for sustained periods of time. It may dip very, very quickly, but I think that we're now, going to move up, and that's significant for Bitcoin because, all macro asset buckets that people store value in, whether it's real estate, equities, bonds, whatever, it's all, units of trillions of dollars. So Bitcoin's kind of like this little baby that's just broken into that club.